Hello, everyone. In the scriptures, when people had died, they were said to be in Sheol. And that word, Sheol, the Hebrew word, seems to be the equivalent for the Greek word Hades. And the reason it's taken that way is because the word Hades is the word used in the New Testament, as well as the fact that when Jews translated the Hebrew scriptures into Greek a couple of centuries before Jesus was born, whenever they encountered the Hebrew word Sheol, they translated it with the Greek word Hades. So they're assumed to be the same thing. Now, just to be a little careful, in the pagan world, Hades was an idea. Okay, people had a concept of Hades in their pagan religion. But don't assume that because you see the word Hades in the scriptures that therefore means the Hebrews or the Jews had the same concept of Hades as the pagans, just because it's the same word. But it does appear that when they spoke Greek, the Jews, when they wanted to refer to Sheol, they would use the word Hades. So let's talk about what that is. What is Sheol? What is Hades? And so I'm going to read from Numbers chapter 16 first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the rich man and Lazarus, and how people kind of get things a little bit mixed up there. In Numbers 16, we have some pretty revealing stuff about what Hades is. And so I'm just going to start reading at verse 25. And this account is about Korah's rebellion. Then Moses arose and went to Dathan and Abiram, with the elders of Israel following him, and he spoke to the congregation, saying, "Depart now from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing that belongs to them." Stuff that belongs to them. Keep that in mind. "Or you will be kept or swept away in all their sin." So they got back from around the dwellings of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the doorway of their tents, along with their wives and their sons and their little ones. Moses said, "By this you shall know the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for this is not my doing. If these men die the death of all men, or if they suffer the fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about an entirely new thing, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that is theirs, all their belongings," that's why Moses said, stay away from their belongings, "and they descend alive into Sheol," or Hades, "then you will understand that these men have spurned the Lord." And as Moses had finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up and their households and all the men who belonged to Korah with their possessions. So they and all their possessions that belonged to them went down alive to Sheol. And the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. All Israel who were around them fled at their outcry, for they said, "The earth may swallow us up." Fire also came forth from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. So here we have a situation where the scriptures describe how the ground opened up and a whole bunch of people, along with their earthly possessions, fell down into Hades. So what do you suppose Hades is? Think about that carefully. Hades is often presented in the churches out there in the world like some kind of mysterious realm where disembodied souls and or spirits and or a conflated idea of those two exist. Dead people, people who have split off from their body are, kind of floating around in Hades. There's no bodies there because they have separated from their bodies. But look at what we read in Numbers 16. What are all these bodies, these human bodies, and all their material possessions doing in this mysterious realm of disembodied souls and or spirits? See how something doesn't make sense there? It doesn't make sense because Hades and Sheol are not some kind of mysterious realm where souls/spirits departed from bodies and they're kind of floating around in this mysterious realm. That's not what it is. Hades and Sheol are what you call that way. Under your feet. Under the ground. I have a suspicion, and I don't know about this, but the power of gravity and how it's a force and a power, and we see that all the time? I have a feeling that the ancients included that in their concept of Hades and Sheol. It's just a speculation of mine. Because it seems like a power, doesn't it? Gravity. And what's it ultimately do? It pulls you down to death. Right? And you get buried in the ground. Hades. A lot of times, too, you'll find various people say that Hades and Sheol is the grave. I don't think that's quite accurate. Because it sort of isolates Hades and Sheol to, grave plots. And obviously that's not true. Korah and his household didn't fall down into a grave plot that someone had dug or a tomb. It was just down there, below the surface of the earth. Hades and Sheol. It's pretty simple. And so when we die and we're dead, that's where we get buried, right? And that's why we're in Sheol or Hades, because we're buried below the surface of the earth, which is what they called Hades or Sheol. You see how silly it is to assume it's a spiritual or mysterious realm of disembodied spirits where there are no bodies, although Korah and his rebellious household and all their belongings fell down into Sheol? That's bodies and material possessions. What are they doing in this realm of disembodied souls or spirits? If that's in fact what Hades is, that's not going to make sense. But if we understand that Hades and Sheol is just that, what you call everything below the surface of the earth, the underground, the netherworld, because nether just means under, down there. It's just like a Germanic word from underworld, under the surface of the earth. That's where you got buried, in the dust of the ground. And that's why when you read in Daniel 12, people sleep where? In the dust of the earth, awaiting the resurrection. Let's have a look at the rich man and Lazarus. And I'm not going to read this whole account because I think anybody watching this video who is interested in this has read this already. Stupid advertisements. And it talks about the rich man and Lazarus and contrasts each of them in Hades. And so people imagine that they're disembodied souls and or spirits, however they think about that. And that's where they are. There's no bodies there. They're in this realm of disembodied souls or spirits. There's a problem with that if you actually read this passage carefully. Listen to what the rich man says to Abraham. I beg you, Father, that you send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, in order that he may warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment. But Abraham said, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. But he said, no, Father Abraham, but if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent. And Abraham replies, but he said to them, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. Do you think that means a ghostly spirit coming up out of the ground? Of course not. And of course there's an allusion to Jesus here. And that's kind of what the overall message is about, if someone rises from the dead. But in the context of this story, you have to see clearly that Abraham is saying to the rich man, if someone did come from Hades to go warn your brothers, that would involve someone bodily rising from the dead. Wouldn't it? Someone would have to bodily rise from the dead to go warn the rich man's brothers. Now, how's that going to make sense if this is a realm of disembodied spirits or souls? That's not going to make sense. And listen also to these words. In Hades he lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and saw Abraham far away and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus so that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool off my tongue, for I am in agony in this flame. What are fingers and tongues doing in a place of disembodied souls? See that? You can't have it that this is a place of disembodied souls and read this passage and have it make any sense. It's talking about fingers, tongues. That's body. It's talking about being bodily risen from the dead to warn other people about this place. You see that? Another thing, just think about these words. In Hades, the rich man lifted up his eyes, being in torment, and saw Abraham far away and Lazarus in his bosom. What does that mean? Lazarus in Abraham's bosom. Where is that? That's here. The heart area. What's Lazarus doing in there? You see? And when you start to think about that, you start to see what this passage is really about. It is about a spiritual reality, but it's not talking about some special, mysterious realm, maybe down there in the center of the earth or something. It's talking about the reality of your condition when you die. What was the state of affairs when you died and you were buried in the ground? Was it like the rich man? Or was it like Lazarus? Is someone literally in Abraham's bosom? No. It's spiritual language, talking about in the love of Abraham and God's love for Abraham. Do you see all that? So the text itself, people try to use it as a proof text that there's this place of disembodied souls and or spirits where souls and spirits have departed from the body. So there's not supposed to be any bodies there, except that we already know Korah and his household are there bodily. And we see that the account is talking about eyes and tongues and fingers and people being bodily raised from the dead to go warn his brothers. That's not going to make any sense in a realm of disembodied souls, is it? And so you have to appreciate all these facts. And I know what a lot of people will do. They'll just kind of deny these facts, kind of forget that they're there, and try to go find other information that they think supports their popular notion of this. But you can't deny the facts and be honest. Korah and his household fell bodily with all their material possessions into Hades. So what is in Hades now? Just disembodied souls? No. Korah and his household, all those people are bodily in Hades. So what do you think Hades might be? See that? This is just another one of those lies that have been told in Christendom, and it, just kind of comes along with the lie of the Trinity. Just another spoke off that hub. The central doctrine of the Trinity that, is out there in the churches. Oh, this is our central doctrine, the doctrine of the Trinity. And so all these other doctrines come off of that central doctrine, all these distorted lies, just to suit the Trinity. And this is just another one of them. There's a bunch. And that's why the doctrine of the Trinity is such a big, fat lie. Everything else has been forced to conform to this lie to suit that doctrine. And so we have lie upon lie upon lie. And this idea is just another one of them. And I know that people want to bring up passages like in Matthew 10, destroying the body and not the soul and all that. Well, there's answers for that too. We can get to that later. But let's just see one thing at a time here. It's impossible for this to be a place of disembodied spirits or souls when there's bodies there. Right? So just try to be honest with yourself with the information that you're reading, and read it carefully. It's talking about tongues and eyes and fingers and being bodily resurrected from the dead to go warn people. Because in Hades, Korah and his household and all their material possessions, that's where they are. Bodily. Dead, but bodily. God bless you.